Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Thanks for joining us. Russian troops close to the capital city of Ukraine haven't moved in days. Bravely, skillfully, and creatively, Ukrainians continue to stand firm in their resistance of Russia's war machine.
The blowback has been a ferocious air assault against Kyiv. The Kremlin is now fixated on bombing the civilian population into submission. CBN's Jenna Browder is in Washington with more.
Officials say the airstrikes targeting civilians are meant to cause fear and defeat. For now, though, Ukrainian resistance appears to be holding.
The Ukrainians continue to fight back very bravely and skillfully. And you've heard me use the word creatively, and I would say that that continues to be the case.
With Russian ground troops stalled, the Kremlin is resorting to airstrikes. New visuals show the extent of the devastation. The city of Kyiv seeing its heaviest bombardment yet. One strike hitting an apartment building in the early morning hours. Another rocket crashing into a city street. CBN's George Thomas reports from the embattled capital.
I'm about 7 miles west of downtown Kyiv, and you really get a sense that the assault and the bombardment of the capital city has just intensified. From the moment I arrived, it has been non-stop, either artillery shelling or, like the other day while I was filming in this exact spot, I saw a Ukrainian surface-to-air missile intercept a Russian rocket. All of this happening while the Ukrainian Christians are still ministering. In fact, this church literally sits between Russian forces about 7 miles in this direction and Kyiv, the capital city. And they say they are not moving, they are not leaving because they want to minister to the people.
This as Moscow expands its assault to the western part of the country. U.S. officials warning the city of Lviv could be next. Russia believes it's a staging ground for Ukrainian resistance and Western military aid.
The more that Russia conducts strikes in the west of Ukraine and the more Russian forces move in that direction, the greater the chances for miscalculation.
Bradley Bowman with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies on CBN's Faith Nation.
That's why it's so important, in my view, that the United States, working with our NATO allies, reinforce NATO's eastern flank in the Baltics, in Romania, in Poland, to deter Putin.
Meanwhile, feeling the pain of Western sanctions, the Kremlin has reached out to China for military equipment. China is said to be considering the request, though Beijing denies it. The State Department with this warning.
We will ensure that no country is able to get away with such a thing.
And in Russia, a brave show of resistance when this woman crashed a newscast on Russian state TV to protest the war in Ukraine, shouting, "Stop the war, don't believe the propaganda." And leaders from Poland, the Czech Republic, and Slovenia, all NATO nations, are expected to visit Kyiv today in show of support. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky will address Congress tomorrow, and there are reports President Biden is considering a trip to Eastern Europe in the coming days. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Well, because of the war, more than 3 million people have fled Ukraine. Neighboring Poland now serves as the epicenter of Europe's largest refugee crisis since World War II. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. About half of Ukraine's refugees are crossing over into Poland. The majority are women and children unsure of when or if they'll ever return to their homeland. CBN senior national affairs correspondent Heather Sells reports on their plight.
Maria Bakova hopes to return home with her 3 children at some point. For now, however, she is unwilling to expose them to war.
I believe that kids shouldn't see the murder. They shouldn't hear the bombs falling on their city. That's why we are here.
Her husband, a pastor, stayed behind to minister to Ukrainian soldiers.
It's very difficult for 3 kids to leave their father, to understand that something can happen, and we don't know whether we see him. As we hope that we see him, but nobody knows. So we just pray that God will stop this war.
Bakova and her children have fled to Poland, along with more than 1 million others. About 1 in 2 Ukrainian refugees are choosing Poland, given the language similarities as well as centuries of shared culture and history. Plus, it's a NATO country. It's raising concern for Polish authorities and other European leaders as more than 6 million could ultimately flee Ukraine. There is no end in sight to the war, which means for now, millions to house, feed, and help process their trauma.
Such little kids maybe don't understand this, but kids about 3-4 years, they understand all the tragedy. I think it's very hard for them.
Officials estimate half of those crossing the border are children, and some are traveling alone. This 11-year-old boy sent here by his mother, who stayed back to care for her elderly mother. Humanitarian organizations like Operation Blessing are moving quickly to provide immediate help. And the European Union is urging member states to take advantage of a temporary protection directive. It gives immediate legal status to refugees and provides them access to housing, medical care, and education.
It is the best vehicle to deliver immediate protection, and it's also the best way to avoid a buildup of cases in the asylum system, which we all want to avoid.
The temporary protection status holds for at least a year, giving these people hopefully time enough to regroup and seek a new life or return to Ukraine. Heather Sells, CBN News.
So many stories of heartbreak. Thank you, Heather. Meanwhile, Poland's churches are responding to the crisis. One pastor who transformed his church into a refugee center is receiving assistance from CBN's Operation Blessing.
Operation Blessing teams are on the ground in Poland, providing emergency supplies to Ukrainian refugees with the help of a local Pentecostal church. Vladislav Figlash has pastored the church for nearly 30 years.
What you see, it is normally our sanctuary where on each Sunday and during the week we worship the Lord. But right now, because of the situation at the Ukraine, our duty and ministry is to help those people. So we put the chairs aside, put as many mattresses as we can to put the refugees whom we are helping to come across the border. Our duty in that ministry is to bring them from the border here to a safe place where we feed them, where they can wash, they get any supply, what they need. And then other people from churches, volunteers are taking them to the destination place. So we are doing that to bless those people, to help them, because as a Christian, we have to do it. It is our ministry according to what Jesus taught us, and we are doing it with great happiness.
As Operation Blessing dropped off supplies to Pastor Viglash, we asked how our supporters could further help the church help refugees.
One way is the financial support, because then we can buy or use the money for certain necessary things. We need a supply or petrol, electricity. So it costs, and financial support is the best way to help us. What we would like to ask you, it is just to stand all together in prayer. Mostly for Ukraine, those people, and for those who are helping them. Thank you very much for helping us. We bless you, we love you. Thank you. May the Lord bless you.
Operation Blessing offering practical and meaningful ways to help. Gordon?
Well, that thank you goes all the way from Poland, from a pastor's heart to you. If you've been supporting the refugee effort, the work of Operation Blessing, the work of Orphans Promise, the work of CBN, to help these people and help them in their tremendous hour of need. If you want to be a part of it, just give us a call, 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to support the Disaster Relief Fund. We're creating a central fund, and then we'll distribute to either Orphans Promise or to Operation Blessing, specifically in Poland, also in Romania, also into the Orphans Promise and Operation Blessing centers inside Ukraine to help people who are in the war zone. You're a part of all of it by giving. Give us a call, 1-800-700-7000. Say, yes, you can count on me. I want to be a part of helping people in need. You can also go to our website, cbn.com. There's a place where you can designate your gift there. We have a new text, OB Crisis. So just type those letters in, OB Crisis, to 71777, and a giving page will show up. So, and either way, do it now. Be a part of helping people in their time of need.